It's the Hogstye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hogstye 2.0, your unofficial guide to the Redskins 2015 season. And let me break it down for you folks. Throughout the season, make sure you're checking us out on thehogstye.com and clicking on the blog stye for all of our hot takes in written form. You should be following us on Twitter at the Hogstye to make sure you're staying current. And as always, continue to check back in with us on the podcast for only the best game recaps, exclusive interviews, and all the late-breaking Redskins and NFL news. My name is Sean Conti. Today I'm joined by Steve Thomas.
Hello, everyone. It's a new day. Excited. Glad for Redskins football to be back.
Amen, brother. Alex Zeese.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And Robbie Duncan.
What's up, everybody? Redskins are back, baby.
We're back and ready for action. Now, like I teased at the end of last episode, we're going to experiment with some new formats. So we're going to get right into our game recap, but please stay tuned because we're going to give you some fantasy advice after and then give you a little recap of what's been going on around the league. So, guys, before we get right into it, can we just take a moment and step back and say we've been doing this for months without a lick of actual football being played? Good for us, guys.
Yeah, it'll be
Round
so
of
much
applause.
easier now.
We made it.
We made it. We've gone through the whole slog of an offseason, and we finally arrived to actual football.
Yeah,
and
For
I didn't
hours
tell
and hours
everybody.
and hours with nothing to talk about. Just think about how good we'll be when we actually have something to talk about.
Well, I didn't tell everybody, but this is that was our preseason, and cuts are coming. So
Right. Oh,
Watch
God.
yourself.
Yeah, I'm
Turk,
worried.
I think the Turk's calling me right now.
All right, well, let's get right into it. So it is the triumphant return of football, and what a return it was. For the first time since October 27th of last year, we were able to look up on the scoreboard and see the game ending with our team with a higher score, with the season actually still within reach, and that's pretty nice. Let's talk about our overall thoughts, maybe. For my part, I thought we showed some rust. Thompson fumbled that return, even though he was able to grab it on the hop. Roberts fumbled a return as well, and Garcon dropped that easy catchable ball. I thought we looked good, but it was those rusty moments that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
What about you, Robbie?
Here's my thing. If Garcon caught that ball and ran it in for a touchdown like he should have, there wouldn't have been such a big discussion about Kirk and Robert again.
right.
Kirk obviously did really well Thursday night in the preseason game. Looked very in control, made decisive throws, worked well in the pocket. But, I mean, again, he's going against twos with no pressure. You know, it's just preseason. There's no consequences for what happens. You just go with it and see what happens. I was glad to see him do well. I mean, because we do need a good backup, obviously, for when Robert either gets hurt or just doesn't cut it and needs to be benched. You know.
Sure. Alex, what about you? What are your general thoughts?
Well, in general, there were a lot of things that I took away as positives. I was really happy with our special teams outside of the punt return units. I thought that we had some young guys, Rogers and Spate.
Yeah.
Those two specifically really looked good on coverage. Can people stop panicking about Kai Forbath at this point? He nailed that 52-yarder like it was a piece of
Bravo.
cake.
Yeah, it was a
So,
great kick.
We did I went over all those kicker stats when we did our kicker breakdown.
Yeah.
You know, people need to remember those because Kai is one of the best kickers we've ever had.
Yeah. Yet there's always going to be people. It's like, oh, he doesn't put it too far in the end zone on the kickoff. So what? If we have good coverage units, that doesn't become a problem anymore. So, I'm just sick of people complaining about him, and people were doing that last night on the blog, and
As they are wont to do.
yeah, people love to complain.
What about you, Steve? Give me your Alex. You got a couple more?
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is I'm a little worried about our third running back right now, especially with Red going down. Not a lot of the guys there showed me anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts.
That's a good point.
I had some concerns about the first team defense that stuck out in my head.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. And then the Griffin versus Cousins battle. I think I had a couple of young players that flashed to me. Rashard Ross was one of them. Alfred Morris stuck out in my head. He looks like he's in preseason form already. And I'd love to hear Robbie's take on the right side of the O-line and the rush game and the run game.
Spoiler, they did well.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we'll talk more about that too when we go over the offensive and defense more in more details. But give us your quick and dirty here.
Mine?
No, Steve.
Oh, okay. I thought I was doing that. I'm sorry. My quick and dirty is first team defense. I'm concerned a little bit. I'm not concerned too much about the Griffin Cousins debate. I thought Griffin looked good, and I thought he was harmed by the fact that there was some preseason play calling going on in there, which I'll talk about later. Cousins, okay, he's fine, I guess. The Chris Culver play aside, I thought he showed a lot of aggression, and I liked the way he played. The interference call was a little bit of bad luck, I think, more than anything, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So that's my off the top of my head takes. Yeah, go.
Let me add to the defense, though. I don't think they were put in good situations, though. I mean, the Culliver pass interference put them right in the red zone and playing with their backs against the wall. And Andre Roberts' fumble put them, in the same situation. What I did like from the first team defense was our run stopping. I thought we were really good in stopping the run.
Yeah.
I think we only allowed like 17 some yards rushing overall, like the total game.
Wow, really? I hadn't noticed
like
that stat.
It was something very low. I didn't pull it up before this broadcast, but
I have that. They had 45 yards rushing for the game.
45.
45.
There you go.
That's still
of
pretty
those,
good.
14 of those was Manziel.
Yeah. Well, the thing that stood out to me about the defense is just, and I guess this kind of goes with what you're saying there, Robbie, is the penetration we were seeing from the defensive line, not the outside linebackers, not the linebackers themselves, but we saw Pot Roast and all those guys getting past their guys really quickly at the point of attack.
I saw Paya in the backfield a lot, too, for the little bit he was in.
But you know what? I mean, they did. Brian Hoyer was 5 for 5.
Right.
No, it was
not Hoyer.
Josh McCown.
Sorry, Josh McCown. Wrong player. But McCown was 5 for 5. He looked good. They were moving the ball on us, pretty well. It's not like, there was some pressure, up the middle, but the first team defense was not effective. They weren't. They weren't effective in that they did not keep points off the board. And the touchdown there, the McCown touchdown in the corner in the end zone, huge blow, huge blow for the secondary. They blew the coverage.
I mean, in that touchdown particularly, he had way too much time.
Yeah,
he bought so much time running back and forth on that play.
Yeah,
somebody should have gotten to him.
If you look at that play, though, Trent Murphy had a hell of a pass rush there.
Yeah, he did.
The left guard barely got to him to knock him to the ground, and that would have been a sack.
Yeah.
After that, though, no one else was quick enough to get to McCown while he was scrambling around. And when a quarterback scrambles around, it's hard for the secondary to stay with their guy, and because receivers just kind of improvise to get open at that point.
Well, and also the problem is, this was the Cleveland Browns that was doing this. This is not the Dallas Cowboys. This is not the New England Patriots. I don't know if they were rusty or what. And certainly, they put a clamp on the run game. But when you let the quarterback go 5 for 5.
I also should note on that play, I noticed it when I went back and watched the game on the NFL Rewind thing. That backup, deep in the backup of the depth chart, I think his name is Bates, last name Bates, number 45.
Is that Houston
he was
Bates?
in. Yeah, he was in on that play. He was playing with the ones on that play for some reason. So, I mean, we didn't have our top pass rushers on the field at that point either.
That is odd that they wouldn't, but maybe, it's preseason and you are trying to get guys in situations to see what they can do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of rushing the passer and getting some good pressure, let's talk about my man Preston Smith. I believe he had a team-high 6 tackles that game. He looked like he was a lot more effective than we've been hearing about him so far through camp. We've been hearing some kind of Debbie Downer stuff about him.
Preston Smith, 6 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss.
He looked good out there, and Robbie, I mean, you can speak to it more, but he looked like he had good technique, too. He brought up some good blocks. I mean, he looked pretty solid.
Yeah, he was great getting off the run blocks and got a couple TFLs. The sack was beautiful, too. It was very quick hands, very technical.
Right.
The lineman came at him with lunging with his hands out. He easily swatted it down and just went right by him. It was really nice.
But didn't he get the sack on Holiday, or was it Manziel? It wasn't with the starters, obviously. It was later in the game.
I want to say it was Manziel. If not, it was Connor Shaw.
Or Connor Shaw. That's who
I thought it was Shaw.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
It looked like. I think Shaw was number 3, so
Yeah.
kind of looks like number 2 at times.
And we're talking about the play where he chased him down from behind, kind of running
Yeah.
to the far side. Yeah, I believe that was Shaw, actually. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought he looked awesome. And Chris Culliver too. I mean, let's talk about him a little bit. I mean, I feel like we've been seeing from him a lot tighter coverage than we saw all last year from our guys. I mean,
Yeah.
at least he's there with them,
Can we talk about the interference call here, briefly? It was a strange call. It's not a normal call that you would see. It really looked to me like the contact was initiated by the wide receiver, but the problem is that Culver was blocking the path of the receiver to the ball.
Right.
And he wasn't and the contact was early, so it wasn't a break for the ball, yet. But it was one of those things where I think Culver almost just couldn't avoid the penalty. Now, I can't really place too much, but he didn't make a bonehead play on that one, I didn't think. It was more bad luck.
Well, my thought is, first off, Joe Theismann is instantly saying it was wide receiver interference. Sorry, in the NFL now, it's always going to go against the corner in that kind of situation, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's just how the game is these days.
Very true.
What I was kind of puzzled by, and I don't have NFL Rewind or anything, so I can't go back and look, how was Culver turned all the way around at that point, so deep downfield, where he's still facing the quarterback and the wide receiver?
I think they were in zone.
I guess so, but it just looks
zone,
very strange to me. It's like he was playing free safety 40 yards deep.
Yeah, I saw.
point.
I had to watch the Cleveland Browns local broadcast, and first of all, those guys didn't even mention the thought of offensive pass interference. They just automatically said, "Oh yeah, defensive pass interference." Over 29, of course. but that camera shot cut to the receiver when Culver was already kind of turned around. So it was a good question, that you're asking.
Well, I
How
think
he
they
got
used the
there in the
same
first
camera
place.
shots.
They may.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it looked like a pretty clear interference call. I hate to say that, but I mean, he did block off the.
It wasn't the
path
normal
of the
interference
receiver.
call, though. Normally
It could have gone either way.
Yeah, normally on the interference calls, you see early contact. From the DB. The DB going over the top of the receiver a little early. In this case, again, I thought the receiver initiated the contact, but the penalty comes from the fact that his path was being blocked. And the other thing about Culver is he made that really great, sumo wrestling tackle there toward the goal line. I mean, I think that showed a lot of aggressiveness that was missing, last season from that unit.
Yeah.
I could hear JR from the WWE calling it, "My God, with the suplex!" I mean, it was perfect technique suplex.
Yeah. Culver, if nothing else, it looks like we're going to get a lot better run support on the outside from him than we did in the past. That'll be nice.
Yeah. Well, help me understand the Manziel running play. It seems like you're in the red zone and you don't spy anybody on the quarterback or the running back and let him run in untouched 12 yards for a touchdown. That seemed like, wow, I've seen Joe Barry's defense do this before. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, that was definitely not the wisest call. I mean, Spate was in man coverage. As soon as Manziel saw Spate leave on man coverage chasing the running back,
He was gone that fast.
He took off.
Yeah.
It was easy.
And
It was
Spate left quick, too. So.
I mean, Manziel was just waiting for that.
There wasn't a linebacker within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not one of them.
Terrible.
I don't
Bad
necessarily
call.
think you have to spy Manziel because I don't think he's that big of a threat. But I don't think you can just drop all the linebackers out in coverage and expect a running quarterback to not take off if possible.
Right. You should have had him in zone at least.
Yeah.
That linebacker should have been right there in a hook zone, so he could immediately react to the scramble.
Right. I mean, and if you were watching, I mean, both teams made that mistake of calling those defensive plays and allowing a quarterback to scramble in the red zone. Both teams made that mistake last night.
Yeah.
It's kind of a head scratcher because both teams are known for having running mobile quarterbacks.
And
So
that's the problem with man coverage. You got guys in man focused on their one man, and they can't react to a quarterback when he scrambles. It's all on the pass rushers to get to him.
yeah.
That having been said, it wasn't our first unit out there. It wasn't
True.
our second unit.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, Spade is a, 5th, 6th round pick, so he's not going to be starting for us this year.
No.
Hopefully.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully.
And just I hate to deviate to the Browns, but Manziel looked a whole lot better than I thought he would look. He actually looked like he was
did.
approaching the apex, approaching the borders of being an NFL player, which very much surprised me because I wrote him off last year.
Yeah, he looked a lot more sharp than usual.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I would agree. And that's a perfect segue, guys. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it because we have to. Let's talk about Griffin versus Cousins. Let's reignite the debate one more time. Everybody's in a tizzy because, of course, Griffin, that if you look at the stat lines, maybe, Steve, do you have the stats for him?
Yeah.
Call
Okay.
him out, freak everybody out.
Yeah. Let me start. Because I'm the one that's always accused of being the Griffin apologist, so,
That's all right.
All right. Robert Griffin, 4 for 8, 36 yards, no touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins, 12 for 14, 154 yards. Colt McCoy, 4 for 6, 33 yards. And we all know that there was the Garcon drop, and
Yes.
we had Jason
Let's
Reed.
talk about that right up front.
Yeah, we
Yep.
had Jason Reed, of course, who instantly blamed Griffin for it and said the throw was late and this and that.
Okay.
I want to look
But whatever.
for anybody who's ever
The
played wide
throw
receiver
hit
knows
the guy in the stomach.
Right in the breadbasket.
Yeah, exactly.
You,
was a fine
any
throw.
of us could go out there and probably catch a ball if it hits us that well.
Yeah, because let me tell Jason Reed something, because I know he's never played football. Wide receivers from a young age are taught up front immediately that you have to go get the ball. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's the buzzword is always for me was adjust to the ball, adjust to the ball. The
Right.
ball was it perfect? No, it was about a yard short probably. And he threw it to the outside hip probably to avoid to take the safety out of the play. But
And Garcon had to readjust a little bit.
yeah, but he
A little bit.
adjusted. The ball was right there, hit him dead in the hands. It should have been a touchdown. So if you add 61 yards to that, you should have had Griffin at 5 for 8 for about 97 yards. And then I got to
And a
talk
touchdown.
about the 2 fade patterns into the corner. First of all, Griffin stinks at fade patterns. He can't throw those very well. But also
we don't have a
a
wide receiver for it either.
yeah, we don't have a wide receiver for it, but I have to think that when you call the same play twice in a row, the same fade pattern in an end zone, I have to think that was a preseason call. I hope
yeah.
it was.
Just trying it out.
100%
Yeah.
sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
Gruden loves the fade, though. He loves to throw the fade.
It's unfortunate
doesn't-
we don't have a receiver that can catch it and a quarterback
Yeah.
that can throw it.
The only one we can do it with is Jordan Reed. We've done it a couple times with him.
What makes
Yeah.
me wonder if Evan Spencer might have a role in that because he is 6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
He's a pretty decent athlete.
But,
But
I mean,
my point is to finish the
yeah.
Griffin thought, and then I'll let you go. Sorry, but if in a game, I don't think we throw the fade pattern twice.
No,
And so
one
you
of
really-
those is a run.
Yeah, and so you're really looking realistically at Griffin at 5 for 7, probably at that point for about 100 yards. And if that had happened, that's a pretty darn good day.
Yeah.
It is. And would we be having this debate that we're having again? Because obviously Cousins goes out there and he scrambles for that touchdown. Obviously his stat line suddenly looks so much better, but it doesn't seem fair to me.
Yes, we would definitely have this debate just because Redskin fans overall love to have a quarterback controversy. We all pick our sides and stick with it no matter what. So it definitely would have come up regardless.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Cousins looked decent, look good. His stats were good.
Trade him.
But he didn't. I think he only had one drop back where he had significant pressure that I remember at
Yeah,
least.
well, he had that one sack where he just kind of froze up. And
Yeah,
I don't
the
know
sack,
if that
and
was,
then there was-
I didn't go back and look at it, but was that more on the
No,
line?
he
or is
took
that,
a long.
Yeah.
He hesitated there.
Yeah.
He had a guy open. He hesitated, took too long in the pocket, and got sacked.
Yeah, that was on him.
Plus, Laribas didn't. He got beat on that play too.
No,
it
but-
wasn't.
Yeah,
He did. And,
Someone
and,
has to get beat to get a sack. I mean,
Well, true. Yeah.
and Cousins kind of stared that sack down, though. I mean, he could have probably gotten it out, thrown it away at the last minute, but
Cousins
he hesitated.
Cousins has a bad habit of staring everybody down.
Right.
That's
He
what
does.
I really noticed the other day and he was stared down almost every one of his receivers. He just got away with it because he's playing against twos.
Right. Well, and my thing about Cousins, my issue with him has always been the mental side of the game. And if you notice, after that sack, he starts getting jumpy again. Like,
Yeah.
you saw him, like, trying to get everyone together. He's, like, jumping around, running around, panicking. He's got a minute left, and they're in field goal range, or I think at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's panicking. And for some reason, the Browns took a timeout there. I don't know what they were doing with that. Maybe just trying to conserve clock. But that helped Cousins more than it helped the Browns.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely benefits from from a minute of being able to sit there and chill, relax his bones.
It's like when things go wrong for him. You know,
panics.
when he has no pressure and he's going against twos in the Cleveland Browns secondary, he looks pretty decent. You know, but it's when the lights come on, metaphorically speaking, that he has major problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say he seemed to avoid the cataclysmic play, which he's never been able to do before, but then again, he historically plays very well against Cleveland, so, I mean, who
And in
knows?
preseason.
I would just say this, critiquing both of them. Look, for Griffin-wise, I felt like he really did. I'm not just saying this. I felt like he looked a little bit more solid. He stepped up in the pocket a couple times where I expected him to tuck and run away.
Yep.
He didn't do that. He stayed in the pocket. That's partially related to slightly better protection, which I definitely want to ask Robbie about next. But anyways, it just seemed like Griffin played with a little bit more confidence. He looked a little sturdier. He had that kind of nice bootleg out to the left where he, at the last minute, had to kind of turn his body and throw, and he made that
throw,
completion. It was a great play.
Yep.
I thought he looked good. Cousins-wise, I thought, again, he looked good. He looked decisive. He sold the play action well. But, again, he was playing against the twos, and, I'm just of a belief that 3 years in, he's not been made the starter for a reason. He did well. He looked like a good backup, but, I don't buy into all of this Cousins should start talk that we hear again for the third time.
Real quick on that bootleg, that's something we haven't seen Robert Griffin do a lot of in his career. Bootleg to the left and throw. Usually he always
Looks
runs
awkward.
right. And,
Yeah.
it didn't look great, but I'm happy to see him going to the left for a change.
I think so, and I think it's probably because he's a right-handed quarterback.
Well,
more than anything.
I understand that, but
Yeah,
It's a game plan thing too. If you know they're going to roll to the right most of the time, then you don't have to wait for a bootleg to the left.
Well, I think you're right, Al. I don't know why we don't roll left more, knowing we've got Trent Williams out there to set the edge. On the left side, I don't get it a little bit. To me, I counted, when I went back and watched it again, I counted 2 bad throws from Griffin, and I thought one of those completions he missed a read. There was a play where he threw a flat pass to the outside to the right, and he had the running back released right up the middle, into the second level, and it looked like the running back had tons of space.
Let me add about that flat route on the 3rd and 1. I thought that was a terrible play call, to be honest. Even if he did complete it, maybe it was just a bad route run by Darrell, but the design was right there in front of the first down mark. And even if he did complete it, there was a guy right on top of Darrell to bring him down, and we'd be at 4th down either way.
Yeah.
I would have just run it, but...
Gruden has a bad habit of those 3rd and short calls. He's just terrible at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always
what
has
is that?
been. I don't know. The call on the 3rd and 1, you have a running back that's rushed for 3,500 yards in his career. About give him the ball, please.
You got a good running back, you got a good fullback there.
Yeah.
I'm 3rd and
Young,
1.
stout offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about running a little bit. Let's talk about Morris. Let's talk about Matt Jones. He certainly set the world on fire with a couple
Thunder
nice
and
runs
thunder,
there.
baby.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thunder and thunder.
Steve, can you remind me what the stat line is for Jones?
Okay.
It was 7.6
Well,
per carry? Or?
Jones was 5 for 38 yards. His long was 23 yards, and so that puts him at a little over 7 yards a carry. Alfred Morris was 8 for 42 yards with a long of 18. That puts him at high 4s, almost 5 yards. Or I'm sorry, a little over 5 yards a carry. Chris Thompson was 5 for 28 yards, along of 14. So that puts him at over 5 yards a carry. Our running game overall was 37 for 153 total, which still
That's
puts
really
us
good.
almost 5 yards a carry. Our run game looked very, very strong the entire night.
If we're able to do that in the regular season, we will win a lot more games this year.
Yes.
Robbie, I'd like to ask you a question. Robbie, tell us what you saw on the right side of the offensive line in the run game. Our right side being Scherf and Moses, the 2 new starters.
Right. I saw, again, Moses struggling with the backside of the running plays. First play of the game, he gets beat to his gap by the linebacker, and we only got like 2 or 3 yards out of it. And then later on, I saw him get beat again. It didn't affect the play because, Alfred was a little more outside. The guy couldn't get to him. And we got about 5 yards. But that's his biggest struggle from what I've seen. He had this trouble against J.J. Watt in camp. Even before J.J. Watt came, he had trouble with that backside play. But other than that, our pass pro looked good. Robert had plenty of time, almost in every drop back. Sheriff looked good to me. He almost got beat on one play where the guy knocked his hands down, but he was savvy enough to kind of just like pin him against Moses. It was pretty cool to see. Very smart, quick thinking play by him. I was impressed by them. They did well.
I really the only guy who looked like he was struggling to me was Sean Laval, and even then it was mostly in the run game. He was just kind of getting stood up, but he would hold his ground most of the time. So I would say if you're a fan of this team and you know what you're looking at, that might be the biggest improvement we've seen this season is that offensive line.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And
Pay Bill Callahan whatever he wants.
So I'm so glad you brought up Callan. That's what I was going to ask. So what about play calling wise? We know obviously he's supposedly got some input on the play calls. I think they came out. The first play was a very simple inside zone run. And obviously that big Matt Jones play where he bounced it out to the outside and he went for 27
yards. That was such an impressive run.
It was an impressive, exactly.
You know
but
why
mostly
it was
because
well,
I was going to say because
Matt
he.
Jones.
Yeah.
Well, because of Matt Jones, of course, but also because it started as a simple run, between the tackles to the right, and he bounced it all the way outside. It wasn't that great of a play call. It didn't seem like they looked pretty stout up front, and he wasn't able to get anything, that the play was designed for, but he was able to bounce it outside anyway. Just a thought there. Maybe not the best play call.
It might not have been that play, but I remember I think it was that play. He did try to juke a guy when he got in the open field, and Matt Jones has to learn. You're a big boy, just run him over.
Yeah,
I don't know. Stutter stepped a little bit.
Yeah. No. Just put your head into the guy's chest and keep going for another 10 yards.
What I did like about that run though was on the bounce out one. He could have easily just run out of bounds and got what he could.
Yeah.
But the corner or safety, I couldn't tell what position it was. The guy came up to dive at his legs, and Jones basically just lowered his shoulder into him just because he wanted to.
That's what I want to see from him.
Well, yeah,
Though he lost that battle, guys. He kind of got knocked down, and I believe that was what gave him that concussion. Right?
I like the fact on the long run he used that spin move to bounce it outside.
Yes,
I think
beautiful.
that really opened up some space for him when he did that.
Yeah.
And
And
you
he
don't
had
see
a
a lot
catch
of
too,
big
right?
guys.
I think he.
Let me
I think so.
give me a second.
But while
here.
he's looking that up,
Yeah.
it looked like Marshawn Lynch to me. It was a very beast mode-ish type run.
It was.
Just breaking tackles and getting a big chunk of yards. It was cool to see.
I mean, he came out of that spin at a very fast pace.
Yeah.
He
he
didn't
did.
lose a step
He
on
did?
that spin. It was beautiful.
and Jones did have one catch for 11 yards.
The only thing is Jones. Obviously, in this difference is that he's not as fast as Marshawn Lynch.
No.
He's got the power of Lynch, but does not have the speed.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
One thing that excites me about him is just thinking about the long-term prospects.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about my man Morris? He had a couple good runs at the beginning, had some good pushes. The line gave him nothing, and he made something out of it a couple times. I thought he looked good.
Yeah, Morris always is good at making something out of nothing. And then there was that really good run he had off of Moses and Sheriff's side on the right side.
That's right.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thing is about our running backs is that we are going to just grind it out. None of them are going to be home run type guys unless you really just get a big wide open run.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep grinding it out and then hit them with the play action every now and then.
Well, like I said, I'm a little worried. I don't see anybody behind Morris and Jones really.
You know what,
who's
though?
going to contribute
I mean,
much.
Thompson looked a lot better than he did last year.
Yeah, I
to
agree.
me.
I agree, Steve. I thought he did pretty well.
I
Too.
Yeah,
thought
but
last
he's
year
fast.
I thought last year he was very hesitant. You see these young running backs that they hesitate. They don't. They're afraid to hit the hole and just get what they can get. Thompson did that last year, and this year he made. He didn't do that, and he got some positive yardage. He
I
looked
think you're
much
seeing
more
that a
like
little
an NFL
from
running back.
Jones right now when he's running. A little bit of
Yeah.
hesitation.
Let me add also about the play calling we were mentioning. They say they were talking about how we're going to switch to a power scheme, more power-based scheme. But like I said before, the zone isn't really going anywhere. We hardly, if at all, ran power last night or Thursday night. It was all outside zone stretch, inside zone. It's not going anywhere. It's just more, I guess, the angles of it. More upfield instead of the outside sweep and stretch stuff. But we hardly ever ran any zone because power. Because in power, most of the time you have at least one lineman pulling and pulling into a gap, and guys are blocking down into a gap. So maybe we'll do that more coming up. We're, I guess, trying to get the zone stuff down first, but we didn't run any power.
Well, I did see Scherf pull on a couple plays. I picked up on that he pulled and was blocking 1 or 2 points.
I did see one. Yeah, you're right.
Well, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Well,
what else do we want to highlight here for offense? So I feel like we would be remiss not to talk about some of the receivers we saw playing. Obviously, for this game, we were without the services of Deshaun Jackson, but who we saw a lot of was this guy Rashad Ross. He seemed like he had a pretty darn good game, and he seemed like he was becoming one of Kirk's more favorite targets, and I believe he was Cooley's pick for the breakout guy of the game. So interesting stuff there.
Yeah, Ross, 5 receptions, 68 yards, long of 23. Andre Roberts was the other guy, 4 receptions, 71 yards. I thought, did Ross play with the ones? No. But Ross certainly did flash, I thought, in the game. He looked like a pro receiver to me. He didn't make any rookie mistakes. I liked him.
Yeah, and Ross last preseason shined. He, every game he made plays and was getting a lot of catches. I kind of think it seems to me that he's not just a preseason star. He's a guy that produces if you give him the chance.
Well, yeah. I'm in the minority. I mean, I saw what you guys saw. It was impressive, but it was a lot of stuff against number 2s and number 3s, and that just doesn't get me as excited. None of our wide receivers really did a whole lot. At least the starters.
Grant did well.
Yeah, Grant did well. But Garcon did not have a good game. Obviously,
he set the tone for that early.
Yeah,
that was about as bad a drop as I think I've ever seen a pro receiver make.
Yeah.
When you get hit in the hands like that, man, it's bad.
Thank God it's preseason.
Yes.
That's all
well,
you can say.
on the receivers, I think it's important to note that without Deshaun Jackson there, it's a much, much less dynamic group, and the route packages they can run are different because you don't have Deshaun. You don't have anybody to take the top off the defense. And taking the top off the defense is such a cliched term, but what it really means is that their safeties have to drop back and account for the guy running free down the sidelines.
And Garcon's not that type of receiver.
No, he can go deep, but he's not going to get past people.
No,
like
Jamison Crowder was not there. He's the other guy that can probably take the top off the defense and run those kind of routes. We didn't have anybody like that.
Theismann was saying in the play-by-play that Ross is probably the second fastest guy, and if that's the second fastest guy, he's not Deshaun Jackson.
No, well, Grant is flat out slow.
Yeah.
And he's a possession receiver. Garcon is not a burner. I think he's got some speed, but he doesn't have that second gear that he can crank up. So we really don't have anybody out there.
He's a short pass yak kind of receiver.
Garcon to me is your most balanced guy. He can do a little bit of everything well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Extremely versatile. I would agree. Strong,
and I'll throw
fast.
a plug out there for Reggie Bell, too. He had 1 catch for 18 yards. Young receiver, but he's also a dynamic athlete. He's just too young, I think, to make a big difference this year. Yeah.
I could see him on the practice squad.
Yeah, maybe. The one receiver who impressed me the most was Dunbar, and he was playing defense.
Shout out to him. He's getting better with the little action he's gotten at corner.
Yeah.
I mean, that pass breakup was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice deflection. So let me just ask you this first about the receivers. If you're Andre Roberts, are you concerned through the first preseason game about your standing with this team? Obviously, it sounds like he's going to lose kick return responsibilities. It sounds like that's a foregone conclusion, considering how we drafted and just what everyone's been saying. But are you concerned beyond that?
Yeah, if I'm Andre Roberts, I'm only concerned about my job as the returner. He's doing everything right now in the receiving part. And even in camp, he's been making good catches, getting open and doing well. It's like boxing, like I've said before. You have to actually outperform the champ to beat the champ, Yeah. So I don't think he is in any trouble of getting cut.
I agree. Yeah. First of all, the salary cap, I think, keeps him from getting cut. But more than that, I think you're right. I think Thursday night was more about getting those young guys a chance to play with the ones more than anything. If it had been a real game, even if Deshaun was not there, you'd still see Andre Roberts
Mm-hmm.
starting, I think, and not Ryan Grant and Rashard Ross. He's a pro receiver. He's had a good camp. I don't think Andre Roberts is worried about that. Like you said, kick return's another matter. He wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe call me crazy, but I don't think he was a tragedy at kick returns.
He
fumbled
that ball, and that's unforgivable. But
but he was
so did
about
Thompson.
average.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say about Roberts is I really liked when he was playing receiver with Cousins, how he was kind of finding open space in the middle of the field to, get into that and, just having guys like that give your quarterback such an outlet. A safety valve kind of thing. And with us not having a tight end now, we're going to need that. We need someone to kind of take on that role as a receiver.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Grant got the starting spot over Andre in the.
I think it's just a test. I think it's just
maybe,
an experience thing.
Maybe they just want to keep Andre as the slot receiver and not put him out at the X or Y or Z spot for the receivers. But I thought it was pretty interesting that Grant was getting his shot there.
Well, it's funny you say that. Let's take a look at the Redskins' offensive depth chart. The depth chart shows Deshaun and Pierre as the starters, Ryan Grant as Deshaun's backup, and then Andre Roberts as Pierre's backup. That's what the Redskins' depth chart shows. And so what happened is that Ryan Grant stepped in for Deshaun, and then Andre Roberts becomes the slot guy. They were playing to their depth chart with the Jackson injury.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, well, let's definitely talk about who's stepping in for who in regards to injuries and stuff. God, it seems like just about everybody. But before we get into that stuff, what are our concluding thoughts about this game? Do we have anything else we want to get out there? I mean, I thought it was pretty damn good. A win is a win, preseason or not.
Mm-hmm.
We showed some rust, but we pulled it out. I guess I'll just say really quickly, quarterback play I thought was pretty decent. At worst, it was average, so I'm going to give that, at the worst, a C+, at the best, probably a B+. Receiver play was great. I'm going to give that a B. Running back, our running game I thought was very good. I'm going to give that an A or a B. Defense, apart from a couple head-scratcher plays I thought was pretty damn good. I'm going to give the whole team, probably like a B- for that preseason game. I thought it was damn good.
I agree with that grade. Thing I want to conclude with is Scott McLuhan's draft picks showed well Thursday night.
They did. So did some
almost
undrafted.
all of them. Yeah,
it's a great thing to point out.
It's very great to see because the only one I would say that didn't do very well was Ari Kwanjo. He had a couple plays on a screen in screen passes where he had to go out and run out and block the corner. And he's just too slow for that. And then there was a couple other pass plays where he was getting pushed back into the quarterback. But everybody else, Martrell Spate did well. He had like 4 solo tackles.
He did great on teams, like I said before.
Yeah, and Kyshon Jarrett, he had a really great pass breakup too. He's flying around the field. And then obviously Jones, Smith, Sheriff, all those guys are doing well.
Yeah.
Did you have any notes specifically about Sheriff?
Maybe playing a little too high at one part, but he's still learning the position. He's been playing left tackle for, in college and now adjusting to guard after playing right tackle. He's going to get better each game.
And you didn't see anything alarming from him.
No,
so
I didn't see anything alarming. So
I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, I'm very proud of what I saw in our draft class Thursday night.
I really, speaking of the draft class, one guy who stood out to me in the second half was Taj Hassan, the corner. He really kind of there was it might have been 1 or 2 series where he just kind of locked down on guys and wasn't letting anybody get a ball, and that was good to see. I don't think he'll be challenging for a starting spot, but if he could maybe be a 5th corner for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, good depth.
I generally agree with Sean's grades. I think for me, the running game gets an A. They did almost everything. I thought the starting defense I'd give a C-. Wasn't impressive. Then we had talked about that. Quarterback play is a solid B. They weren't spectacular, but Griffin, Cousins, and for that we didn't mention McCoy. McCoy looked decent too in the 4th quarter. He was okay. He didn't make any big mistakes there. So I'd give the
McCoy
quarterbacks
looked like
a B
a career
too.
backup, and that's what he is.
Yeah, no doubt. So overall, they got the win. I'd give the team a solid B.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Spate's stats: 5 tackles, 3 solo tackles.
3, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about this other major thing that happened during the game. We lost.
Injuries.
Obviously, we lost. Yes. It's the voice of death. We have lost a couple. One backup, but one definite starter we have lost. Or at least a guy who was going to get a ton of playing time in Niles Paul. So the two injuries we lost through the course of the game were tight end Niles Paul and running back Silas Redd. Redd didn't play much last year, probably wasn't slated to play much this year, but Niles Paul, on the other hand, was definitely going to see some playing time, and that has put us into a bit of a situation. Brutal injury. Looked pretty painful.
Yeah.
Dislocated ankle with a fracture as well. He was ready for a breakout year, too. He worked his ass off this offseason.
And he knew it. That's the heartbreaking part.
It was a heartbreaking thing to watch. And there was an article, I can't remember the source, sorry, can't give the credit, but they quoted Daryl Young, who had gone right up to him right after, and that Niles was crying and screaming, "This was my year," and it was just really, really hard to read that. And Niles Paul tweeted some stuff out, the next morning. Friday morning. That was pretty heartbreaking. So I really feel bad for him. I've never seen Niles Paul so jacked, man.
He looked good, didn't he?
Holy moly,
Yeah.
he looked like he put
solid.
on 20 or 30 pounds of muscle, which I
He
think
actually looked like a tight end.
Yeah,
he did.
exactly right. He looked like a real tight end.
And from the early signs of camp, he was Robert's favorite target. He was throwing to him a lot when I was there watching.
So is Cooley suiting up, guys, or what?
No.
Yeah, I think you'll find such a spread of opinions about that among Redskins fans. I mean, the thing is, it sounds horrible because we all know how Cooley played towards the end of his career here. Obviously, he's been out of the game for a couple years. It seems like a terrible idea, but then you think about the realities of our tight end situation.
Yeah.
We've got two basically rookies, a guy that's coming back at some point in Jordan Reed, but you can never really trust to stay around for any significant amount of time. And other than that, there's only a couple free agents that are on the market. Neither of them are like knock off your socks type of dudes. So, I mean, we have two options. Either we can roll with the young guys we have, or we can wait for final cuts to happen here in a couple weeks and see who hits the market.
I think both is going to happen. Scott's not going to panic and trade a second-round pick for a Jason Taylor-like tight end, like back in the training camp a couple of years way back when was it Philip Daniels that got hurt?
Yes.
Oh my God, we got to get a good D end. And no, we're not panicking. I think Scott wants to see these young guys step up and take advantage of their opportunity. And then if some big guy like Vernon Davis gets cut in preseason, because there was rumors that he could get cut. So
Right.
that would be insane if he got cut.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Is Niles' injuries one that he may be a candidate for the IR where you can come back halfway through the season, or is he just done?
I think this was the worst case scenario back when Robert dislocated his ankle. We thought there was a fracture, but it was just dislocated.
Yeah.
So he was able to come back, but this is like the full thing, and
Probably not then.
Realistically. It sounds like in the reports that he's done for the year.
I wish I knew something about these rookie tight ends we have, but I just can't speak intelligently about any of them, to be honest with you.
I didn't see much from him.
I do know that from what I've heard that Dixon and Ham have been Gruden likes what he's seen from them. I think Ham used to be a wide receiver. He converted to tight end like Niles Paul did.
He got hurt a little bit too, didn't he?
Yeah, he
the
did.
Game?
But I think he's okay now. I think they reported that it's not going to be that big a deal. But yeah, I think they like what they have in Dixon and Ham.
I mean, you need to get somebody who can sit there and make a block and set the edge so that Morris doesn't have to dance around the defender 2 yards, behind the line of scrimmage, which is what we've seen constantly from Redskins tight ends.
Well, I don't know if we're sure that Paulson's going to be out for the year yet.
No, just a significant amount of time, I think.
Because he's got that toe problem, but they have not said he's going to conclusively get surgery yet. So it's possible that Paulson could be back, I guess.
I'm not worried either way. Take your time, Logan.
it just is very worrying to think that we have three starters we were planning on going into the season with are all hurt already. So
yeah, does not bode well.
Nope.
So
and
we
did y'all
shall
notice
see.
that Cooley was out there running routes before the game?
Yeah, I saw that.
Robbie's shaking his head for those of you at home.
Yeah,
he's trying, folks. But it's
Robbie,
just
you've lost enough weight. Can you go play tight end? They might need you at this point.
I can catch, but my
Can you run a
knowledge
sub 540?
sub 5, no. My best was a 5 even.
Oh wow.
Hey,
Well,
can you make
know
a block?
What? Yeah, you can. We know you can block, so maybe you need to go run out there and see if we'll take you. 5-0's not that slow for a tight end, I guess.
No. Let me add this about Silas Red, since
Yeah.
he's also looking to be out for the year. I believe he was the odd man out anyway. I think
almost a good
Gruden's.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like Silas Red, but he also showed he has tendencies to give up the rock. You know, even though he got injured on that play, he still fumbled, and he's fumbled a good number of times with the chances he got last season. But I think he was going to be the odd man out because obviously we got Morris and Jones in front of him, and then Gruden. He's always been a big fan of Chris Thompson. He wants that Giovanni Bernard type.
I wish I knew why he was a fan of
receiving
Chris
back.
Thompson.
But he likes Chris Thompson. I think Thompson is going to be that third guy this year, and Red would be the odd man out.
Well,
I mean,
you know, and
Thompson's
now
got
Red's
some
gonna,
good speed, Steve.
Yeah, well, I know, but what has he done? You know, at this game was the first game that I've ever seen Chris Thompson look like an NFL running back. Looked like he belonged. You know, and he was playing against the 2s and the 3s.
But he won us a game single-handedly last year. God, I'm forgetting if this was last year or the year before, where he had that really great return that went past the 50-yard line. I'm gonna have to look up, see which game this came from. I mean, he showed signs. He hasn't had much of a chance.
It was the last
understand.
game of the preseason, I believe.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a preseason. It was a regular season game, I believe. It was weird to see him out there.
I thought you were
don't
talking
remember.
about the play when he returned the kick for a touchdown in the last preseason game. To make
Oh,
the team.
no. It wasn't a touchdown. I'll have to look up what play I'm talking about. I mean, he's shown some signs of promise. It doesn't surprise me that Gruden likes him.
Yeah.
He looks okay. I mean, he also showed bad hands in fumbling that return.
Well,
but,
You know what? Our 1 and 2 are
He made
set,
something out of it.
and how often are we even going to use our number 3 guy? This is
right.
This is going to shape
Spot
up,
duty.
I'm hoping, to be like how when we had Portis and Liddell Betts going 1 and 2 at running back all the time.
I'm wondering if Trey Williams has a shot to stick on the roster.
He probably has a shot,
Yeah.
you know.
Could.
He didn't look too bad. You know, I mean, Trey had, 7 carries for 15 yards. Not that good, but I didn't think he looked bad doing it. He's got some speed to him, speed and athleticism.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's chat about some other injuries real quick. We want to move on to some other headlines, but obviously the other guys that didn't make the trip down to Cleveland, or up to Cleveland, I should say, would be Kerrigan. Preston Smith got the nice start in his place. Deshaun Jackson was not there. Breland was not there. Who else was not there, guys? Amerson was not there. That's right. We were definitely hurting on corners. Though that didn't stop us from getting some good corner play.
No.
Nope.
I think those were the major ones. So nothing too alarming there. Obviously, the only 2 guys we've definitely lost for the season were those 2 that we mentioned during the preseason game.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's probably, for the most part, these guys are going to be solid when the season rolls around. So let's move on from that. Let's talk about some other headlines. And guys, the thing that's obviously the huge thing in the news, which I just love, would be Geno Smith. This
Mama
is a
told
guy.
me to knock you out.
Exactly. Geno Smith got knocked out of the entire league.
It is not good when a starting quarterback gets punched and a jaw broken by a backup linebacker and nobody comes to the quarterback's defense. Robbie, let me ask you something. If your boy Taylor Heineke, he's probably a good guy. I'm sure he wouldn't put himself in that position. But if some linebacker went Rocky Balboa on him, would you have stepped up to help him out?
I can guarantee you that the entire offensive line would have been on him.
Yeah.
yet-
That's the
and yet
worst
Geno
part
let it
about the
out.
whole story.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gosh.
man. What is
Well-
I mean, what was it? It was over $600 too. That's the amazing thing.
Well, the story I think was that Geno was going to attend the camp of, I can't remember the guy's name. What's the puncher's name?
IK
Something. We'll
something,
call him
something.
IK.
And
he was
and
going
it's
to.
hard to
Polly, I
pronounce.
think.
Yeah, the story I heard was he was going to attend IK's camp and then couldn't make it because of a family reason, and the $600 was over the travel costs that they spent that Geno had not reimbursed. That was what I
Right.
think the story was, and apparently Geno was mouthing off about it. What are you going to do about it? It's just ignorant. It's immature. Geno's a moron.
Geno's an idiot, but he didn't deserve to have. This could be a
Oh,
career.
no one
type of
deserves to
thing.
get their jaw broken. I
Right,
think
and I mean
that's
it's
fair.
not. Exactly, and it's not the injury itself that's career-ending. It's just the fact that, I mean, this was like make-or-break year, more or less, for him, and now he's not going to be part of it. I mean,
it broke.
Well, I just wonder, joke. Somebody hit the rim shot in the mix. I just have to wonder if Geno's kind of done in the locker room after that happens. How can the starting quarterback get a tackle? You just heard what Robbie said. Robbie said the whole offensive line would have stood up and protected their quarterback. I mean, and zero people stood up for Geno Smith, and they didn't even do it after it happened. You had Darrelle Revis say it was both their faults, and
that's right. The most support he got was people saying it was both parties' faults. That was the most support Geno Smith has gotten in all of this. The other side to this story, obviously, which I think is hilarious, is who picked up the puncher, and Nkpale would obviously be the Jets' former coach, Rex Ryan, up there in Buffalo. Now, I think this is hilarious because this is a classic Rex Ryan spiteful move. This guy's a backup. At this point in the Bills season, obviously, they've had their own backups that they've been working with all summer, but they pick up this guy at the last minute. Is that seem as spiteful and obvious to you guys as it does to me?
I can't stand Rex Ryan. He's such a loudmouth blowhard. I really hate him. But it's a very to me it was either Rex or the Dallas Cowboys. One or the other was going to pick that guy up.
Real quick, there's like this weird incestuous thing that seems to happen between the Bills, the Jets, and the Patriots. It's probably every year. It seems like there are like 2 or 3 guys who just jump from team to team in that little triangle.
They love their own players.
Yeah. Like
I love the word incestuous.
And none of them care about Miami. Miami's has nothing to do with this, but those other 3 teams in the AFC East just love to trade coaches and players. And they love to hang out together and drink, beers or pops, I guess, since they're in Buffalo.
You know what's come up on the Redskins fan radar scope is whether the Jets are going to trade for Kirk Cousins. I think that's crazy at this point. But
it's not going to happen, but I would love to see it because right now, Kirk had a great game. Let's put him on the block.
He did, and Steve, is that even crazy? They asked Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
It's not a crazy thought. I think it's crazy that they would do it.
Yeah.
If anybody gets traded to them, I think it'd be Zach Mettenberger. He had a really good preseason game last night, and a lot of people still see him as a starter in the NFL, who's stuck behind Marcus Mariota. So I'd keep my eyes on him too.
Yeah, and that's probably more that's more realistic than thinking of the Skins giving up Cousins when you've already got a starting quarterback with injury issues. I mean, I don't think we're parting ways with Cousins, who shows.
I think that there's going to be 3 quarterbacks on the roster this year.
I would agree.
I don't think they're going to go with 2, and the reason is we don't even have a camp arm that can be stashed in the practice squad. That guy went home to mom, if you remember. So I just cannot imagine this team going too deep on the quarterback front, given Robert Griffin's injury history. That having been said, it wouldn't break my heart if McCoy was the number 2. I think he'd be fine as the backup.
Yeah, me too.
The only reason I would say you may as well just move Cousins is because does anyone think he'll re-sign with us next year? Because I don't.
He
certainly
doesn't want to.
Deal. Just get something for him.
Yeah.
He wants to start.
And for that matter, it's not like we couldn't find a third quarterback right now today if we had to. There's guys out there on the street that could come in and hold a clipboard.
I've seen the list of guys out there, and it's Jared Lorenzen and guys like that at this point.
Michael Vick. Is Michael Vick still out there?
Yeah, Michael Vick. I think he would jump at the opportunity to play here. You know that.
Of course. Would he be the worst thing in the world to have as a number 3 quarterback?
Not bad for morale.
And remind me, guys.
Michael Vick, because he's always been bad for morale. No one wants Michael Vick on their team. He killed fucking dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to get over that. I mean, that was years ago. He paid the price for it. It's done. It's over. He's turned his life around. He's come out of bankruptcy. I don't care about the dog thing anymore. It's done. It's over.
Yeah. Well, Michael Vick aside, let's bring up one other headline that I wanted to definitely bring up. I wanted to get your guys' opinion on Hard Knocks. Have you guys been watching? Have you caught any of the episodes?
Well, there's only been one episode so far.
Have you caught the episode that we were on? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. Number one, they made us look bad. Thanks a lot, HBO production team. It made us look like we got dominated by the Texans in practice. And, of course, we had Robbie there live actually watching it. It was the J.J. Watt show.
Yeah,
I don't
what
know.
an asshole he was.
Yeah, I thought it was a less entertaining episode, Redskins aside, than prior years.
It showed all the highlights and none of the lowlights. Like every big play J.J. Watt made was on there, and which made it look like he was dominating the entire sessions of practices, which is not true at all. I mean, he made plays against Moses and Sheriff. There was the play it showed him driving Sheriff back in the backfield. That was one play.
That was one play against a rookie.
One play against a rookie, and he said that was against a rookie. It doesn't count. I mean, I'm glad I didn't watch the episode because I would have turned it off and just pissed off and done with it.
Yeah.
Completely different from what I watched in practice. It was a very, very even game. We were not outclassed and outmatched against them. It pissed me off.
It seemed like there were three things they focused very heavily on that episode. They focused on that play where J.J. Watt blew up Scherf. They focused on Vince Wilfork, taking Laribas to town. And then they focused on the Hopkins-Hall dispute that ended up with Hall kind of getting his ankles broken a little bit there. They focused on those three plays really heavily. It seemed
I have
pretty
this
obvious.
to say about Hall and Hopkins.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Hall has more touchdowns as a corner than Hopkins has as a wide receiver for a career, okay?
Good point.
Did he beat Hall? Yeah. Did Hall actually slip and fall? Yes, he did. I think they both need to I think Hopkins talks too much. I think D'Angelo Hall talks too much. I think it was much less of a deal than it really – it should have been much less of a deal than it was. And in terms of the Wilfork Laribas thing, it looked awful, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But come on. I mean, you're going to highlight that. You highlight a starting nose tackle over a third-string center at best?
Basically.
I mean,
Right.
come on. The whole thing irritated me. They made Richmond, Virginia look bad.
They sure did, didn't they?
Well, that's not
I'm no
very
Richmond.
hard at times.
I'm no Richmond native, but I mean, come on, it's not supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be the point of training camp is to be isolated and to be able to focus on football, which is in fact what Richmond provides with pretty good facilities, as Robbie can attest.
Sure.
And is it downtown Houston, Texas, which is where the Texans training camp is? No. Does it matter? No.
Well, I've been to downtown Houston, Texas a number of times. It's not that great either. And
No,
so,
it's not.
I mean, Houston.
I hear it smells
Houston's-
like a shithole.
Well, I'm not going to get into all my bad mouthing Houston because my wife will kill me because she's from there. But yeah, Houston itself, it's actually very similar to Richmond. No one actually seems to spend much time downtown. People live in the suburbs and then they go into the city for work.
Well, the downtown Houston is actually revamped significantly from what it used to be, believe it or not. But it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I mean, does anybody believe J.J. Watt was out there by himself at 10 p.m. at night, diligently running,
Oh, no, the cameras were there.
and-
He wasn't alone. He had the cameras.
when 50 kids just happened to be there, screaming his name.
You want to know what really happens if you're alone in downtown Richmond at 10 o'clock at night? You get mugged.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to mug J.J. Watt, feel free to try it.
I don't think
frankly.
anybody would try that.
Unless she had a gun, I guess.
I mean, it was. I don't know. The whole episode I thought was kind of poorly done.
Yeah.
I was
Well, we'll see.
disappointed. I was disappointed by the way we looked, and I was disappointed by the episode generally.
I think the thing people can really take away from it, though, is that how vulgar the football environment really is. I mean, you see the players on the field doing their thing, but it is a very vulgar environment. Guys cursing up a storm, But that's the real world too. It's just different though, especially if a kid was watching it. I think that'd be pretty enlightening, I guess.
Sure.
My God, O'Brien's got a foul mouth.
Yeah, he does.
he was cursing like a sailor. My God, I seriously doubt Jay Gruden's up in practice talking like that. That man, every other word out of his mouth was fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could not believe it.
Well, I'll say we've seen Gruden on that show before when he was with Cincinnati. And
That's right.
He wasn't no saint when it came to talking.
But he wasn't on O'Brien's level.
No.
I mean, my lord.
O'Brien and Gruden have different personalities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
O'Brien's the classic tough guy, football guy. Gruden, I think, is a little quieter. Intellectual's the wrong term, but
Sure.
He's not quite as much of a stereotypical big lineman, loudmouth lineman type guy as is O'Brien.
He's what I would like to call he's got like the dad personality going, I think, Gruden.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got the dad body too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dad bod.
Yeah.
Hey, don't fat shame our coach. All right.
He's a little pudgy, I mean, come on.
Well.
He could stand to lose a few.
He owns it too.
I also like to point out that O'Brien has the biggest butt chin I've ever seen.
He does. It's Ben Affleck's Batman style.
That cleft in his chin is the deepest I've ever seen. It's
Right.
like a portal to a different dimension.
Well,
It's so big.
so
A
don't
portal
forget
to a different dimension.
It's huge. It is a giant cleft chin.
Not even light can escape that cleft.
So the biggest thing we learned this week, folks, is that head coach O'Brien has a butt chin.
And it leads to a different dimension.
That's what we provide you, folks, on the Hog's Die.
Yeah, we've done our job.
Maybe Narnia.
I will say, I don't have a problem with the fact that they're cursing in practice. I've heard stories on the news and places like NPR and stuff how that's becoming a problem now in Pop Warner football, though, that coaches are talking basically that exact same way to, 8-year-old kids who are playing or whatever. But, like, if you're doing this with grown men, who cares?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
it's
I
not,
mean,
you
they
can't
handle
do
it.
that, talk that way in a normal workplace environment.
Oh, no.
But this isn't a normal workplace environment. It's pro football.
Well,
Matter of fact, did you hear? I mean, you heard
labor-heavy environment.
who's
We
the-
talk that way.
Well, the Texans linebacker coach Vrabel was talking about that and said, this didn't work. What your parents did, 9 to 5 is work. What we're doing is not work.
Yeah, I do remember that quote actually. Yeah. All right, well let's talk about the last headline here. So the other new thing that's happening in the world of the Redskins is we picked up Sage Harold, linebacker, and we waived Trevardo Williams. Is that a surprise move to anybody? It seems pretty late in the game to be picking up this new guy and dropping somebody, but tell me, am I missing something here, Robbie?
It's a surprise that Trevardo got cut. I mean, because he's shown well at times. But the cool thing is Sage Harold is a CAA player from James Madison University. I played against him both times that ODU played them when we were in the CAA.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I thought, you guys would have overlapped a year or two, right?
He's a pure speed rusher. I'm sure he's gained some weight since I played him, but he was one of those light, pure speed rushers. I mean, he's very explosive, got that quick first step, but he was talented. I mean, he led the league or the CAA in sacks, which by the way, for folks that don't know, the CAA is the SEC of Division I AA football.
Okay.
So it's very competitive.
The Premier League.
It's the premier conference of that level of football. So he shined well in the toughest conference in that level. So he's very talented.
Well, it's good
I'll
to hear
take
that
it.
he has some talent because, I was a little surprised that Trevardo was let go, and it's good to hear that the guy who's replacing him has some talent.
He's also nephew of Eli Harold that got drafted to the what team was it? I can't remember. But Eli Harold, the guy we talked about a lot in pre-draft talk,
Right.
he's a nephew, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, that bodes well.
Yeah.
Maybe we will see him take the field when we head up against the Lions here on the 20th.
I would think so.
Beautiful. Well, let's see. One more final thing to talk about. Let's do some. I understand the Madden rankings have come out, and these are always fun to listen to. I love it. In fact, I love watching the videos where players hear their rankings for the first time. Equally hysterical. But Robbie, can you walk us through maybe some of the highlights there with the rankings?
All right. Well, Madden, of course, doesn't like us. They gave the Redskins an overall 75 rating for the team.
Oh, Jesus.
For
That's
those that
about where
don't-
we were last year, right?
Yeah. For those that don't know Madden or sports games in general,
That would be me.
the players' ratings and team ratings, the highest rating you can get is a 99. So that goes to like players like J.J. Watt and Antonio Brown, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, blah blah blah. So I'm gonna highlight some players. Start off with Robert. Robert was granted a 78 overall rating, and which is warranted. He didn't do very well last year. Probably.
I'm
going to
guess they gave him good speed but poor everything else.
Yeah, his speed's a 90. So you can at least scramble with him.
Which is absurd, by the way. I don't think he's that fast anymore.
Maybe.
I think he is.
We got Crowder was rated a 70. His speed's a 90, which is about right.
That's pretty good.
Let's see. Breland is a 72.
Wow, they fucked Breland.
Yeah.
Damn.
Here's Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun is a where is he? Sorry, it's in alphabetical.
He's in the 80s.
He's got to be a high
that.
80 at least.
Deshaun's an 88.
Yeah.
Here's where they screwed him over though. He has a 92 overall for his speed, which is he was a 97 last year. They really took him down on that.
That's weird.
Let's see. Chris Culliver is an 85.
Solid.
Tress Way got some love from Madden. They gave him an 85 overall. So that's good to see.
It's fair.
Jordan Reed is an 82.
Might be a little generous.
Keenan Robinson's 75. He's better than that.
Yeah, he is.
Sheriff is an 80 overall and was in the top 5 of the rookie class overall ratings-wise. So that's good to see.
Keep in mind, he's still listed as a right tackle, so if you buy the game, you have to go into those settings and fix that.
And Madden updates the players' ratings weekly by performance, so that will probably change too.
80 is great for a rookie player, though, before his first
good.
game.
It's really good. Darrell Young got some love. He's an 87. Trent Williams is an 87. That's not right. He should be at least a 91 or 92.
Agreed.
Preston Smith is a 70. Not very, it's just a rookie rating. Who else deserves some love here?
Alfred Morris. How about Alfred Morris?
Alfred Morris is a...
he was low rated, I thought. I couldn't remember the number, but...
Alfred is a 84.
Yeah.
Speed is an 83, so that's not good at all. Let's see. Stephen Paya is an 83. Let's see. Lichtensteiger. This was good to see. Corey Lichtensteiger got an 86. He finally got recognized for his good play.
Yeah.
And is given a good rating.
But think about that though. They're putting him on par with Trent Williams. They're rating those two the same. That's kind of that's off.
A little bit. Let's see. Sean Laval's an 80. That's about right. Terrence Knighton's an 88.
Yeah.
Kerrigan's our highest rated player with a 90. I don't agree with that.
Well, now it all depends on what they're doing this year. Because in some years, Madden, it's like after a while, everyone's a 99. And, the Madden changes every year, like what the ratings mean. I've always thought it was a better game in those seasons when they put it out there, and there's a whole lot of guys who are in the 70s, and then getting into the 80s and the 90s really meant a player on that team was, the hot shit.
Right. Here we got D'Angelo Hall. He's a 77, and his speed's an 87. That's not good.
Well, he's getting old.
Yeah, he's getting old, but he's not an 87. He's at least a 91 or something.
No, I know.
Really?
I think, yeah. He's still pretty fast for his age.
He's quick, but that's generous.
Yeah, maybe. Duke Iannacio's a 76.
We have a lot of guys in the 70s. I remember noticing that. We had you can go pretty far down that list, and we still have a lot of guys who are in that 70-plus range.
Yeah. Speaking of 76, Trent Murphy's the 76. And then I'll conclude with Matt Jones. He is a 71 overall.
That'll come up.
His speed is an 85, and his trucking, they gave him a little bit of love there, is a 90.
Oh, they must have been watching Hard Knocks.
I think
actually,
Steve's
no.
eyes are bleeding right now.
I just have no idea how bored I am. Do people actually care about these ratings?
It's always a
Does
good
it
topic
matter?
of discussion, especially amongst the players.
Honestly, I couldn't care less if Matt Jones was a 71 versus a 76 or whatever it is you said. I really don't care. I care about what happens on the field. That's just
you got to watch the players react to their own rankings. That's hilarious.
Well, and I always think it's interesting because to me it's always a fair way to kind of do an impartial gauge of what the public really thinks of each team and its players.
What the public thinks, it's what some geek at EA Sports thinks of the players.
Yeah, but they take a lot into account. It's not just a number they throw out there. They really go in depth in how they rate these players. I mean, it's not obviously
It's not one guy.
It's not
they
gospel,
get a whole group of
you know?
people.
It's not the be all and say all in how good a player is. So.
And I would just point out, Steve, I don't remember the exact number. We could Google this, but Madden has correctly predicted the Super Bowl winner something like 8 out of the last 10 years or something like that. I mean, they've got actually a pretty good track record for being realistic.
Well, let's just not play the Super Bowl and we'll just let Madden do it.
Just let Madden do it. Okay. I think we might have a better chance in the video game world than we do in the reality.
Hey, I get us going 16-0 every year.
Hey, and before we go away from it and conclude the day, just so you know, people, Madden comes out next week, I believe, on the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll definitely be playing it. You guys can find us on the Xbox Live thing. I have the same handle as my Twitter handle, so if you guys want to play me there, feel free.
We'll be making announcements about that. Robbie, I believe we have a plan to do some potential Twitch streaming of you and me going head-to-head on Madden, so we will have to revisit that when the game actually hits the shelves. So I'll be picking that up too.
Cool.
Beautiful. All right.
Talking about video games, I'm sorry. I tuned out about 10 minutes ago.
We're done,
This is how
Steve.
we feel when you go into legal stuff, Steve.
That's actually interesting. Who wouldn't like that? Who didn't like talking about contracts?
Well, look at our ratings for those episodes, and you can figure that out yourself.
Yeah, we'll do Robbie and I live streaming us playing Madden, and then we'll live stream Steve just reading law books for another episode.
Hey,
and
you
then
learned
we'll see
something
who
out
gets
of
more
me
views.
doing that.
It'd be Masterpiece Theater style.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be back with you soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you're checking us out throughout the season online at thehogsty.com/theblogsty, or just click on the blogsty from the main page there. Check with us on Twitter throughout the day for all your breaking news, and make sure you keep checking back with us here on the podcast for your exclusive interviews and game recaps. Also, we'll be doing some game preview episodes. Check back with us Thursday morning. That's Thursday, the morning of the Lions game, for our preview of that game. We're also going to be doing a standalone fantasy episode, so stay tuned for announcements there. We're going to give you all your fantasy football help, and we'll see you on the interwebs. Take care.